Hello and thanks for watching. So here we are, we're in F-Zero X and this is the next video in my series looking at the F-Zero series. F-Zero X is a sequel to the original F-Zero on the Super Nintendo, and this was first released for the Nintendo 64 in 1998 here in the UK. And as you can see from the rolling demo here from the title screen, it's now a 3D racer. Basically same premise as the original game, but it's all in 3D. New music, lots of ships to race against, and let's press start and we'll get to the main menu. So here we go, we've got the main mode in the game, the GP race, got time attack where you're racing against the clock, death race where you're basically using your ship to destroy as many of the enemy ships as you can, versus battle which is split screen. This game features split screen up to 4 people, which is really cool. And if the screen's split 2 ways, it's split horizontally. If it's 3, the screen is split into 3, and the 4th plane is used for a map of the course. And if it's 4, then it's just split 4 ways. Practice mode: pick a ship, pick a track, and just practice to your heart's content. And options where you can let's have a look. I think you can clear your data and stuff here. So erase all saved data, stuff like that. So yeah, we'll just go into GP race and have a look at the game and talk about it a bit. Here's the difficulty select. As with most of the F-Zero games, they can be a bit difficult, so I don't really play on expert. If you've played a lot of these kind of games, you probably give it a go, and or you can build up to it obviously, but I just like to have a quick blast on them. I've not played them a huge amount, so I stick with novice for the most part. So here we can select a course. We've got the Jack Cup, Queen Cup, King Cup. I think you can unlock some more. You just have to beat these tracks. And we start with Mute City, a classic from the original game, Figure 8. So let's get into it. And here we go, we can see on this screen here how many ships are in the game. And you unlock these as you progress through the game as well. We've got the 4 basic ships at the top here, the Blue Falcon, Golden Fox, Wild Goose, and the Fire Stingray, all from the original F-Zero. And let's stick with the Blue Falcon for now, the classic with Captain Falcon there. Oh, and I'll just mention actually, if you look, you can see little cartoon characters in the top left. And that sort of follows on from the original game with the comic book style, giving the game a bit more personality, a bit of unique look to the game, other than a lot of other races out there and stuff. So that's quite cool that they've continued that, and it's a part of the F-Zero universe. So here we go, we'll go in here. And here you can see you can change your settings for acceleration and speed by moving this little thing here. And I think you can, yeah, if you use the C buttons you can spin your ship around at the bottom there. And the R button is used to change the colour of the ship as well. But we'll stick with the basic blue, I think. There we go. Okay, we'll pick that. So here we go, Mute City, the first course. It's usually the first course in the F-Zero games. And you can immediately see it's quite fast. The game basically went for minimal graphics and maintaining the speed of the game and having as many other ships on screen as you can. So you can see we have 30 racers. So that's quite a lot. Gives you a bit of good competition to race against lots of people. Basic premise is the same as the original game. You're racing along, you've got accelerator, brakes, you can tight turn, you can be damaged, you've got energy in the top right there. You can replenish your energy on the pink strips on the track, which you saw me go over just a moment ago. Got the map of the course in the bottom right and your speedometer. Lap counter in the top left. Got the little portraits of the characters from the game, representing what position they're all in at the side there. And the little ships at the top represent how many attempts you have at a track. So there's the energy replenisher I was mentioning. After a while here we can get up into the top view. It's quite an easy track, Mute City, the first track in the game. And if we press B we have a boost. We can change the camera angle using the C buttons on the Nintendo 64 controller, like that. I tend to stick with this sort of view here, the default. Something else they've added in this game is the ability to spin your ship and attack. So if I do that, you can see, and you can spin your ship into the enemies and damage them. That's particularly useful in the death battle mode for destroying ships. You'll obviously lose energy if you collide with ships, and it is a bit risky like that. That wasn't a very good example of that, but there you go. We'll boost a bit and see if we can get up into first place. There we go. And as you can see, there we go, won the race. But as you boost, you do lose energy, so it is important to keep an eye on your boost levels, your energy levels, as you play. So there we go, that's the basics of the game. That's the first track, so let's move on and look at another track. Okay, so the next track is Silence. Anyone who's played the original F-Zero will remember there's a track in that game called Silence, and they've continued the tradition of remaking some of the originals here. So let's get into it. And yeah, so the game, it still plays very well. When it originally came out, it was quite impressive. The speed of it, the sheer number of opponents. So there were some similar games out around this time, like Wipeout 64, a game called Aero Gauge, and the Star Wars Pod Racer game. But this one always impressed with its speed. It never dropped in frame rate or anything like that. And yeah, they didn't have very detailed backgrounds in this game because they wanted the tracks and the ships to shift at a good speed and not be compromised by using the power of the system to make quite detailed backgrounds. So the backgrounds are quite simple, but you don't really notice. The game just plays really well. It's quite smooth. You can get this on some of the virtual consoles on the Wii and stuff like that, some of the modern Nintendo stuff. And yeah, it really does continue the tradition of the original game. Feels very in that similar style, even though it's really 3D now instead of quasi 3D of the Mode 7 from the Super Nintendo. And yeah, it's just it's still satisfying to play. It feels good, looks good. So yeah, that's been a look at this track. We'll cut across to another track now, and we'll have a look at some different stuff. Okay, here we are. We're in the Golden Fox ship, and we're on Sand Ocean. So let's have a look at this. And this is quite cool. Since the game's gone to 3D, you can now have stuff like this, where you've got these 3D pipes you can zoom around on the inside. You've just got to make sure you come out the pipe the right way up or you'll fly off the track. But yeah, being 3D now, they have quite a lot of cool stuff like that. Half pipes, things like that. And yeah, so the game was well received when it came out. It was very positively reviewed. One of the best games on the Nintendo 64, I think. And definitely, as I mentioned before, it came out with quite a few other futuristic racing games around, and some of the other ones are quite good as well. But this one definitely stands out. And Nintendo did later release a expansion of sorts for this, the F-Zero X expansion kit, and that came out in Japan exclusively on the Nintendo 64 disc drive, the 64DD, and I think that was around the year 2000, but it never saw a release outside of Japan. And that had like a course editor and stuff like that. Sound like some quite cool stuff. It's a shame it never got released outside of Japan, but the basic premise of the 64DD was a bit flawed with the direction of gaming at the time, with PlayStation really winning that generation with the CD technology and stuff. Let's cut over and look at another track. Okay, so I'm just going to show you the Death Race mode. And this is the mode where you're basically trying to destroy as many of the enemy ships as you can, using the spin attack which I mentioned before, like that. And you can also, I think I forgot to mention this before, if you double tap the air brakes you can slide slightly to the left or right, and that also attacks the ships. There we go, I got one kill, so you see the star has appeared on the screen there. Let's see if we can get another one here. Ah, no. And that was just bad timing. So that is what happens when you fall off the track. And that happens in races as well. You can fall off the track and your ship's destroyed. So let's start that again. See if we can do a little better. See, I've never been a big fan of the Death Race mode myself. I prefer the basic racing of F-Zero. But it is nice that this mode is in here. I always find it quite difficult to actually get a kill. Let's see if we can spin attack someone. Don't want to fall off the track again, that's the thing. Here we go, let's try and get this guy. Yeah, and fell off the track again. Well, you get the idea. That's what the Death Race is like. I'm not very good at it, as you can tell. Not a big fan of it myself. Let's have another look at a proper track though. So we'll just go into practice. Let's pick another cup. Here we go, let's just go with this. Devil Forest 2. There's loads of tracks in this game. And we'll pick the Wild Goose this time. There we go. And as you can see, there's no real loading because it's cartridge based, being the Nintendo 64, so you get straight into the game. There we go, we've got the boost straight away because we're in practice mode. And you can see, because we've moved to a different cup, that the tracks get a bit more difficult as you progress. It can get quite difficult. It's not as hard as later games in the series, like F-Zero GX for example, quite a difficult one, that one. But yeah, the difficulty ranks up as you go through, but by the time you get to the more difficult tracks, you've got the hang of the game. Should probably mention the soundtrack, that's pretty good. There's some remixes of original songs from the original game, like the Mute City track we heard earlier. And it's not great quality because it is the Nintendo 64 cartridge based sounds, but it's pretty good, and it's slightly more metal or rock versions of the songs, and works quite well. It's good stuff. Yeah, I think that's covered the basics of F-Zero X really, and it's been a look at the game. The next game in the series is F-Zero Maximum Velocity for the Game Boy Advance, and I'll be putting a video up having a quick look at that one as well soon, so stay tuned if you're interested, and thank you for watching.